Okay, so now you heard the case, but then you do argue. Say, well, everything you mentioned, even though that's not within the knowledge structure of a regular 3PL today, but they could learn, and that could be added to the knowledge body, given the exposures and opportunities. And I agree with that. But what is more important, but not available within their knowledge structure of any regular 3PLs today, is the analysis of the quantified and modeling problem-solving approach. And here I would give you an example. At one oil field located in Germany, there was a expansion project because the same owner operator have not any redevelopment or expansion experience over the last 3 decades. So there is no knowledge even inside the owner-operator, at least for that part of for that particular oil field in Germany. So when the project logistician or advisor sent over from the United States arrived at the German oil field, the first was a route survey. So the American logistician completed the route survey and came back with this big concern over the bottleneck, very obvious to him at the construction site. And why would he be worried about that? Because with the bottleneck, the construction site will hold up the delivery traffic and pretty soon get in the way of otherwise designated as the temporary staging space, which will further complicate the traffic and produce even more bottlenecks around the site. So as this snowball started building up, what happens is all those pre-carriage, main carriage, on-carriage of the capital equipment deliveries, they may have to be rescheduled because when they keep piling up and there's no space on the construction site, that becomes a big headache and will produce the big negative impact financially, because it will lead to the delayed completion of the project. Now, that's only one bottleneck identified on the construction side. But then from the construction side to the oil field, or the new part of the oil field to be expanded into, first of all, the little paths connecting between the two places, they're pretty old. So what's the surface capacity for the payload of the capital equipment? When the logistician asked his German colleagues, he had absolutely no answer, because there's nothing indicate in the last 10 years what is the up-to-date capacity. They could go back to the history to find out what was the originally designed capacity, but that has not been updated for the service capacity. So when you have that question lingering, you don't really know how heavy one piece of equipment can be transported over the service road. Can you? When you think all the Germans are very particular on the technicalities, well, in this case, somehow nobody has the answer. And then going further from this little service road connecting the construction site and the oil field, the logistician look at this purely linear path connecting all the well site or positions. If one becomes a problem, they cannot get to the next whatever 17 or 18 or 12 wherever that, bottleneck is going to be. So that's another problem to hold up the traffic. And then the whole oil field basically depends on one little locomotive to drag one car, real car. And how, well, they did set up the budget to basically increase the capacity by purchasing another one or two locomotive and buy a little more real cars to be hauled. But then the logistician look at the path of the little rail track and calculate the angle. When you know the length of the oil pipes, and then you look at the angle, how are they going to be able to have more than one rail car and then make the turn to go along the little rail tracks to place the oil pipes where it need to be put in? That seemed to be a very valid operational concern. So this was raised in the conference that was all conducted in German for 3 days. And the American logistician basically just sit there and look at each other and smiled a lot. By the time the conference was concluded, the logistic problem and solutions were not even there discussed. And so the American logistician was wondering, what was the purpose inviting me over here? Well, call it cultural differences and certain bias against each other, but that was not a very effective trip made by the logistician. In other words, the problem was not addressed. So this does not have anything to do with 3PLs or not 3PLs, but it does point to one fact, that when you deal with certain things within a big organization, there's a lot of bureaucracies. And you do not expect any 3PLs coming in and try to fight it over, because they won't. Okay? So this is something purely internal. The problem has to be solved. And that goes beyond the regular 3PL knowledge, skill set, and mindset. This is why it is only possible to be addressed internally by the in-house logisticians. And the knowledge structure, nevertheless, will be very different from the regular 3PLs who are required to perform other tasks.